Okay, hi everybody. So yeah, we do have a pretty full program, so I'm going to get going actually, and again, really warm welcome to today's event, to this launch of Caranol USA. It's really great to see you all, and to be at this point where where we're launching. My name is Ananta. I'm right now in New Jersey, but I'm based in New York City, and I'm the CEO, co-founder of Caranol USA, alongside Samaya Shri, who's been working very hard with me to get this set up. And there are a lot of people here that I could call out as well, who've been incredibly supportive in helping us to get to this point of launching today. I want to start by sharing 5 things with you about Caranol USA. So here we go. The first one is that we are here. So we are here. Caranol USA exists. We're a sister entity to Caranol USA and Caranol Germany. And we've been set up with the generous support so far of Caranol UK. And like those other Caranols, we're going to work to ensure that marginalized people, downtrodden people, have access to a decent life, decent opportunities, regardless of their status, regardless of the discriminations that are held against them. Secondly, we will support the work in South Asia. So we'll build on the incredible work in South Asia, that's India, Nepal, Bangladesh, that the other Caranols, Caranol UK and Caranol Germany are currently supporting. So this is education for discriminated against children, empowering women, livelihoods, support so poor people can have access to decent wage, decent living. Thirdly, we're going to support work in the USA. So this is a real innovation. We're going to support work in the United States. So when we were developing Caranol USA, our thinking was that we really want to, continue the good work that Caranol does, following its values and the model, build on the success, but we really wanted to look in our own backyards, not just across to Asia and to look at what's happening over there, but what can we learn and apply right here in our own backyard. So over the next 6 months or so, we're going to be running a process to look at what that work could look like. So part of what we're going to be doing in today's event is also to look at and have an exploratory conversation of what does this program of work look like? Could it look like in the United States? Because we're really wide open, and you'll hear that. So we're not quite sure what it's going to look like, but we're really excited to see how it could look. Fourthly, we're going to be a Tree Ratner-led organization based on team-based right livelihood principles. So we really want to build a robust, values-driven organization that's supportive of practice. We really believe in team-based right livelihood. We want to walk our talk when it comes to organizational culture. And we want to explore what that looks like in 21st century America. And so we're really excited about this. We've got ambitious plans to grow and to develop. And so we really want to build Caranol USA out to create a robust, thriving organization that is run on these principles. Fifthly, we'll mobilize people across North America, in the United States in particular, to become supporters. So we'll actively fundraise from various groups to be champions of our work. And we're starting with you. We're starting with our Tree Ratner community. And we need you to donate. We need you to support us, to help us get off the ground, to give us a fighting chance of growing and to being able to be responsive to the needs of the different partners, and to really help us get a firm footing so that when we get to 2022, we can start employing those people to help us build out the organization. We can start supporting partners in South Asia and the US in a really meaningful way. So hopefully there'll be some links in the chat about how you can not only donate to us, But also follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, because building out our social media presence really helps when we get to things like digital marketing, which is something that we'll be doing. So even if you never look at us again on Facebook, just please, if you could, go and like us, because it will help us to build up the numbers. So today's event is about sharing and diving into these 5 key messages with you. So next we're going to hear from Pat Madaka, who's the CEO of Cara&R UK. He'll give us an overview of Cara&R's work, how incredible it is, what an impact it has. Then we'll hear a more personal exploration of that from 2 Indian friends, one Sanganath, who works in Cara&R UK, and another Pratibha, who works in Cara&R Germany. Having explored the work more from the South Asia perspective, we'll then shift to this discussion about what Cara&R could look like in the USA. So Vimala Sara will lead us in a panel discussion with 4 incredibly talented and inspiring people to explore what are the issues, what are the discrimination issues that are equivalent to caste that we could be focusing on in the USA. And what role could we as Cara&R be playing? Then you'll have a chance for discussion. So you'll have a chance to discuss among yourselves, question the panel, anything that's coming up, and then we'll close in just under a couple of hours' time. So I want to just move now into introducing Pat Madaka, who's a long-standing friend of mine and who befriended me about 20 years ago when I first started going to Pamaloka. And yeah, he's been a really dear friend ever since. And he joined Cara&R in the UK right as I left after 5 years of working at Cara&R UK, which was a shame because I would have loved to have worked alongside it. But I did grill him, and he reminds me often that I did used to grill him a lot after I left Cara&R UK, because I wanted to know what was going on. Who are you funding? You know, what partners are doing what? And what decisions are you making? Because I really cared about it, and I think that's probably why I've come back to it. And he was very generous in his responses, and I think tolerating me in my questioning. So really warm welcome to Pat Madaka, and thanks for all the help you've given us in supporting and setting up Cara&R USA. So over to you, Pat Madaka.
Thanks, Ananta. Hello, everybody. Greetings from Norfolk, which is in the east of England in Europe. Hello to you wherever you are, in whatever time zone you're in. For some of you, it's very late at night. For some of you, it's very early in the morning. So thanks for coming along to the event. I'm really, really, really excited and delighted. And I kind of can't believe that this is actually happening. After many years of quite dreamy conversations that Samaya Shri and Ananta and I have been having about giving birth to this project, we're actually launching it, and I'm really thrilled that we're able to do this tonight, and that so many of you have come to do this with us. I'm going to just talk quite briefly about Cara&R UK. The focus of tonight, obviously, will be on setting up Cara&R USA, but Ananta asked me to give a very brief overview of Cara&R UK. So Cara&R was born when a group of Ordam members from the UK met with a group of Bante's followers in India in the late 70s. This eventually led to the Indian wing of the order establishing social projects in slums in Nagpur and Pune, and order members in England establishing what became the Cara&R Trust. So 41 years later, we're here launching Cara&R USA. So Cara&R UK exists to end caste-based poverty, caste-based discrimination, poverty and inequality in India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. The caste-based discrimination severely affects the lives of hundreds of millions of people globally, but especially in South Asia. Cara&R's overall approach is that we work with local in-country partner organizations, and we are partner-led. So what that means is that Carina UK does not create projects. We don't invent solutions to problems. We can't from our base in the UK. But we're very good at working closely with grassroots, local partners who know the problems in their communities, who know the people that need support, and who come to us with fantastic proposals. So we work together in collaboration with these partners. So we're a partner-led organization, and that's a very, very important feature of how Carina works. It's crucial. Our approach is based on the premise that when an individual's life changes, they can change their community. Or when the community changes, they can change the rest of society. So all of our work starts with individual transformation, leading to collective transformation. And Carina supports organizations as well to form networks amongst each other so that they can build a critical mass, share experience, become more effective. Some of our networks are really fantastic. So I can't, in the time that I've been given by Anantha, and I've promised I won't overrun, I can't go into any detail whatsoever. It's a bit like I'm describing my favorite restaurant and I need to tell you every dish and every ingredient. You'll have to take a look at the menu yourself, which is the Carina website. So maybe during this, you could look up our website and take a look at some of our dishes. We will show a short video at the end of my brief presentation. But broadly speaking, our work focuses on education, which Anantha has mentioned, and the focus there is on supporting Dalit and tribal children who would be at risk of dropping out of school to stay in school and complete their education. The second focus is on dignified livelihoods. So this enables people to break free from traditional caste-based occupations, which maybe Sanganath and Pratibha will touch on. It locks people into occupations that have very little prospect and in many cases are quite degrading. So the Dignified Livelihoods Programme offers alternative and more dignified ways of earning a living for people. And finally, we work on gender equality. So this is providing leadership and skills, enabling women to become leaders in their own communities, to assert their choices and to empower others. Now, over the last 20 months, since COVID has arrived in our lives, and COVID has had a devastating impact in South Asia, our focus has been on emergency relief work. And last year, our partners in India and Nepal worked with over 350,000 people. So that's the scale that we've been operating on, particularly during the COVID era. So it's quite big. Now, how we do things is as important as what we do. So I think Anantha mentioned one of the aims of Carina USA will be as a team-based right livelihood. So we have 23 full-time staff based in the UK and one in Germany. And team-based right livelihood means we meet for weekly meetings. We have regular meditation and practice sessions. And next week, we're going on our annual team retreat for a whole week. And it's the first time in 2 years that most of us have seen each other. So we're all very excited to be going on retreat. More than excited, we're thrilled and fizzing with enthusiasm. So that's a little bit about team-based livelihood. I'm going to leave it there, but what I want to do now is show you a very short film just to give you a taste of one of our, it's not even one of our projects, it's one of the people who've attended one of our projects. It's quite a sad story. It's shot by one of our fantastic young Indian filmmakers called Binal Gala, she's a wonderful filmmaker based in Mumbai, and we've been working with her for the last few years. But I think in this video, it will give you a sense of how individual transformation and the harrowing journey that somebody has been on through participation in one of our programs, how they can then in turn help and support others. So I'm going to hand over to, I think it's Ananta now, who's going to play this video. And then after that, we will go straight into the next set of speakers. So thanks for listening. I'll be here for the whole event, and I'll pop up again, I think, in some of the later sections. And so I can answer any questions then, but we'll hand over now and we'll do the video. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, Pat Madaka.
मेरे साथ छेड़छाड़ की घटना हुई थी और मतलब जाति सूचक शब्द बोले वो। फिर इसके बाद में मैंने 100 नंबर डायल किया और रात को तो उनको बंद कर लिया था दोनों को। फिर सुबह वापस से पता नहीं कब से छोड़ दिया उनको। फिर आके मेरे घर के सामने गाड़ी खड़ी कर दी और बोले कुछ नहीं बिगाड़ सकते, पुलिस वाले को तो हम हमारी जेब में रखते हैं। और मैं ड्यूटी जाती थी तो मतलब वो बोलता रात को 11 बजे आती है तो हम तेरे को काट देंगे, कहीं नाले में फेंक देंगे, तेरे साथ हम गलत काम करेंगे, तेरे पति को मार दूंगा। यहाँ तक कि मेरे बच्चे स्कूल जाते थे तो उनको भी रास्ते में ढूंढता था। तो ये काफ़ी पैसे वाले थे आरोपी लोग, तो इन्होंने मतलब वहाँ से मेरी जॉब भी छुड़वा दी। फिर मैं बेरोजगार हो गई, मतलब ठीक से नींद भी नहीं आ रही थी, मैं काफ़ी डरी हुई थी। पता नहीं किससे हमारी जो जनसाथी है उनको पता चला और मुझे बोला कि नहीं, हम बोले आपका सपोर्ट करेंगे। उनको अरेस्ट करवाने के लिए आवेदन वगैरह भी करवाए एसपी साहब, कलेक्टर साहब को, और उनको अरेस्ट भी कर लिया, उनको जेल भी पहुंचा दिया था। इसके बाद में राजीनामा के लिए बहुत सारे मतलब दबाव आए। मैंने बोला कि नहीं, अगर आज मैं चुप बैठ जाऊंगी तो आज मेरे साथ छेड़खानी की, कल हो सकता है मेरे साथ बलात्कार कर दे या मुझे जान से मार दे, कुछ भी कर सकता। मैंने सोचा कि नहीं, मेरे जैसी बहुत सारी ऐसी बहन है जिनके साथ भी घटना हुई है, तो घटना से घर में नहीं बैठना है, हमें लड़ाई लड़ना है और हमें आगे बढ़ना है। और इसी चीज़ से मैं आगे आई। फिर मैं सामाजिक वकील की मीटिंग में आई, फिर मुझे कानून की जानकारी भी और मैं बहुत सारी चीज़ें मुझे सीखने को मिला। अभी मैं आगे कार्य करता हूँ और ऐसे जहाँ भी महिलाओं के साथ में घटना होती हैं तो मैं उनका सपोर्ट करने का काम, यहाँ तक कि मैं लीगल सपोर्ट भी करती हूँ। प्रोजेक्ट का ज़रूरत ये है कि प्रोजेक्ट से आज मैं इस जगह पे हूँ कि मुझे यकीन नहीं था कि मैं सच में भी खुद के लिए तो लड़ाई लड़े, फिर दूसरों के लिए भी मैं लड़ाई लड़ूँ। तो मुझे गर्व है कि मैं दूसरी जो भी महिलाएं, जो पीड़ित महिलाएं, उनके लिए मैं लड़ाई लड़ रही हूँ। तो मुझे बहुत खुशी मिलती है, उनका सपोर्ट करने में बहुत खुशी मिलती है मुझे।
Okay, so yeah, a really powerful example of the work that Karanar does and the work that Karanar supports. So I want to now kind of, well, we're still in this area, like so if you remember my points at the beginning, I was sharing that, you know, one, we're here, and two, we're going to be focusing on the work in South Asia. So we're going to spend a little bit more time on the work in South Asia by hearing from two friends from India who work for Karanar in Europe. So one of those is Pratibha, who works for Karanar Germany. She is from Northern India and is currently in Northern India. So I'm just thrilled that she was willing to spend the time with us today, this evening, for her, because it's about 11 p.m. right now, and it's Diwali, so it's like a Saturday party night, and she's choosing to be with us, which is a great honor. So she's been living in Germany for 7 years, and she works for Karanar Germany, and she holds 2 master degrees in the field of gender and public policy, and has worked in research as well as the development sector. So we've been really lucky to have her supporting the Karanar work. The other speaker right now is Sanganath, who is from a small village in Maharashtra state, India, where he attended one of the educational hostels that Karanar supported. And so he got involved with Triratna when he was 7 years old. So, you know, long-standing involvement with our movement. And he went on to then work for Karanar sponsored projects in Pune, the educational work. And then he moved to the UK, first working with Windhorse Trading, and he got ordained at Gukulaoka in 2008. And then about 10 years ago, he moved to Karanar. So he's seen all these different, it's really fascinating, the different areas, dimensions of Karanar's work, from a recipient and a client of Karanar's work to now supporting, leading Karanar fundraising appeals and his role as a supporter, recruitment manager. He also has a 3-year-old son who he loves dearly, and I think he loves more than cricket, but although I'd need to ask him more personally if that's the case. So thank you both again for joining us. And Pamadaka mentioned about Karanar's focus on tackling caste-based discrimination. And I wanted to just ask you both a question around that. So you as the audience might have an idea of what caste is, or you might know very little about it. So there's a traditional definition of society is graded into different castes. If you're at the top, if you're the priestly caste, you're the superior one, you have like superiority over everybody else. If you're at the bottom, you do all the menial work and the menial labor. That's a very simplistic description of it, and it's morphed a lot in modern society. But so my first question to each of you is, what do you see as the characteristics of caste, and how does it operate, and how have you seen that in your life, in your experience? So Pratibha, perhaps I could turn to you first to respond to that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Really glad to be here. Already apologies if you hear busting crackers, because we are still in the Diwali mode and it's still going on. So apologies for that. I think for me, like, if you really ask me about what does caste mean to me and how I've seen and witnessed it in India, I think something that we all can relate to from last year, the buzzword social distancing. So the social distancing has been going on in India for thousands and thousands of years. So we have communities living in India, which actually are also the majority in India, who have been socially excluded. People have socially distanced themselves for thousands of years. Again, like also what Ananta mentioned, it's also too simplistic to say that when a certain person is born into a caste, is kind of damned to be in that caste and in that particular job or frame of job that's assigned for this person. Because I think in a society like India, which is so complex, there are many crisscrosses, many intersections that run through caste. And I think that's also the approach of Karuna that I really like, that we do tend to identify these intersections with gender, with class, with your ethnicity, the region also sometimes where you come from, all that kind of runs through caste. So that's very important to keep in mind to identify the most vulnerable group. Right? And another thing that I would also like to mention is that even if we ourselves try to get rid of the system and try to work towards it, there's so many people, for example, the politicians are also, during the British colonial period, this was also a system that was solidified. When census came, for example, people were identified as high and low. They were divided into these stratas. The system is still going on, and of course, politicians also use this for vote bank politics. So even if we want to go through an inner structural cleansing of India, there's so many vested interests who kind of benefit, because as I mentioned, there's a clear elite minority that's kind of still suppressing and oppressing the people who are the majority of India. Personally, I do consider myself as a casteless person, just as many other leaders that we had. Ayuthitas, for example, who was the leader of Tamil Buddhist movement, he identified himself as caste, and people like Ambedkar, who I'm sure many of Karuna supporters are also aware of, were inspired by him. And there are still people who kind of work towards it. And personally, even though I consider myself as as a casteless person, the institutions do not allow me or anyone, I would say, to be identified as such. So you have this institutional casteism in the society where you're forced to, it's visible in your name. It's visible sometimes from the professions you come from.
Right,
so
right.
I think,
Thank you, Pratibha. I think, I'm sure we're all making kind of mental connections with casteism and the way society is structured here in North America, and it's really helpful to hear you lay that out. Also, the social distancing analogy, and I think that's a really visceral and really kind of clear description of how it must feel to be to have caste practices used against you. Yeah, Sanganath, would you mind sharing a few thoughts around what caste is and how it operates?
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's good to be here actually, and it's good to be doing with Pratibha as well. She's my good friend. I wish I could be in India, Pratibha, celebrating Diwali right now, but here we go. Pratibha really summarized the caste problem, the caste system in India really well, actually, Pratibha. And the way you express the social distancing, that's exactly some of my friend in UK has told me. They can now imagine how the untouchability looks like, feels like in these situations. It's really good, actually. He said that. What I could say is, Dr. Ambedkar said caste is now attitude. It's not just to do with religion or system. It's a became attitude in people's mind. And that's what Dr. Ambedkar said. Give you some example to understand caste. It's complex. It's really complex. But as Pratibha said, it still exists, and it still exists in all aspects of Indian society, not just one aspect, all aspects. So give an example of marriage, for example. Inter-caste marriage, still difficult in India. My friend Amol, we grew up together, really. He was fall in love with higher caste woman when they were in university. They decided to marry. They said, if she told her parents, they will kill her. They have to run away, that hide and get married somewhere. After 10, 15 years time, their parents said, they're coming back and meeting them. So for example, the caste, it's really deeply rooted in things like that, marriages, for example. One thing people don't understand, almost everyone in India have a caste certificate. You have to show caste certificate, which caste you belongs to, in order to get some facilities in government. Yeah. So I had a caste certificate in India when I was in India. Fortunately, I don't have now because I'm British citizenship. Yeah? But caste certificate is really essential in the Indian situation, if you like. What else I can say? I can give so many examples how my mother was treated when she in village. Even she used to work in farm owner, and farm owner didn't touch us. They gave her separate cups and plates and so on. The caste systems exist in even that level of caste existed in India in some places. So that's a little example, glimpses of caste system. And I wish we could have more time to talk about that. Yeah,
thank you. I wish we could have some more time as well to dive more deeply into this. Yeah, thank you. The next question is around Karuna's work and where you've seen it made a difference. So maybe Sanganath will continue with you. Where have you? You're a direct recipient of Karuna's work, and you've transitioned from being a recipient to now being someone who supports the work through raising funds. So yeah, how have you seen it make a difference?
Yes, definitely. So when I was growing up in India, in southwest of India, I grew up in a small village, and Coronach one of project actually came to my village called Ashwaghosh, the cultural activities for kids, teaching them songs and dramas and street plays and things like that. So I was very much interested in that project when I was a kid. I loved it, going on to these kids activities and expressing myself and thriving in my imagination and vision for my life. That's how I come across first place Coronach project in my village. And then just nearby my village, there is still actually Coronach's educational hostels for kids. And I made a strong connection with that project. I used to go and spend time with them. I still do actually. Whenever I go back to India, I still go and visit that project. So Coronach, that's the first time I saw Coronach's work. And then later on, I moved to a place called Pune. It's a big city in Maharashtra where I used to work in slums and so on. Yeah, I mean, I could say a lot of really. I mean, I personally benefited and grateful for Coronach's work. And yeah, there's so many different aspects of Coronach's work in India exist, which I feel very, very inspired. For example, karate project I involved with as well early on in the Coronach's project. Coronach's project is amazing, giving confidence to kids and women and girls. And that project, if you see now, thriving, really thriving. There's so many 20-25 black belts exist now in India. So that's a little bit my experience of Coronach's work.
Yeah, thank you. I love that, the empowering nature of it. It's not just kind of trainings, which is still very important, and the more, say, technical stuff around educating kids, but the real giving them life skills of, how to defend themselves and how to find confidence through the arts and through martial arts. There's a couple of examples. Yeah, thank you. Pratibha, how have you seen the impact of Karanar's work changing people's lives?
Yeah, I think just what also Padmadaka highlighted in the beginning, it's partner-led, and it's really they're not like mere passive recipients of a program, but they're active change makers. So they're actively participating. It's the partners we work with come from within the communities we want to work with. Well, mostly, it's a bottom up approach. And probably I would relate, because we saw the video and I have seen that project. I visited that project very close to my hometown, and I have met these girls who provide legal support in their communities, and they would not, even though they come from really small towns where you probably there's no proper infrastructure for them to kind of take a bus and go somewhere, but they're still somehow doing it. They're trying to reach other women. They have themselves also faced harassment, sometimes also these rape and death threats, but they've overcome it because there are these projects like the Maitri network, which also is such a vast network of people, like bringing people together and building strength. And it's also multi-pronged approach. So it's not only, okay, we'll go and train the women to be legal advisors. No, it's also working with the men to raise awareness. It's working with the community, the government organizations. It's working with the one-stop crisis centers who are the first line of response when women face violence. So it's a whole, it's a plethora of various sectors, I would say, and that's how you tackle a problem. So that's
absolutely. Yeah, that holistic approach, and Padmadaka outlined before the way that Karanar approaches. You focus on transforming an individual's life. And then you work on a community, and then like in this Maitri network, you bring together, in this case, a group of women leaders to try and tackle these problems at a bigger scale. And that links to the next question, which I want to just ask you to do. This is an impossible question, and I'm really sorry for doing it with just 4 minutes left of our time together, which is to do with Dr. Ambedkar, because that model has its root in Dr. Ambedkar's vision for social change. Like, you start with the individual, then communities, and in that way you transform society. So if you could just give 1 or 2 points each, and this is the impossible part, I'm really sorry for doing this, but of why Dr. Ambedkar is important. Why is he such a central figure in the work that we're doing? Maybe, Sanganath.
Yeah, it's difficult to describe Dr. Ambedkar in one couple of points. The first thing is really, when you think about Karuna, it's about ending caste. That's our vision. We'd like to see the community where no caste. Yeah. And that's exactly Dr. Ambedkar has done. He has challenged that fundamental problem in India, the caste. Yeah. And that's his vision, to see the casteless society. Yeah. But where Dr. Ambedkar does it, not with violence or not with reaction, he does it peacefully. He does it with really interesting way of dealing with problem. That's the great example of actually how you can change the society and the caste. Yeah. That's why it's so important. He's tackling this incredible difficult problem with incredible intelligent and spiritual vision for life. Yeah, that's why I think Dr. is so important. Second thing is, I think something we really take for granted, which is the democracy of India, the constitution of India. It's not easy to build, it's not easy to come together. Dr. Ambedkar has done incredible good work with writing this constitution of India. And I think, for my personal opinion, we can protect this constitution as much as we can. There might be people want to change in the future, but the constitution of India, it's serving so many millions of people in India. If constitution wasn't exist, then problem of India will be still even bigger. So there's something about constitution. Even there's people are misusing constitution, but still, I think that's the greatest gift of Dr. Ambedkar has given to India, which is the Indian constitution, democracy we need to protect. Thirdly, just very briefly, because we are Triratna organization, his example of a Buddhist, as an engaged Buddhist, is incredible. He's 21st greatest, the Buddhist example, as Bhante Sangha Rakshit said. His example of as a Buddhist is incredible. It's a good introduction to Buddhism, how Buddhists can change society. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Sanganath. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Pratibha?
Yeah, Sanganath has already said a lot. I'll keep it very short, 2 points. I think Ambedkar, as opposed to other reformers of his times, he was not interested in merely the social issues at the superficial level, but he wanted to completely eliminate the root causes of these problems. And that's why he's a very inspiring figure, because the root causes for him was the religion, was our scriptures, where the caste is written. So he wanted to eliminate that. Second, educate. Education is very, very important. He held it very dear to himself. He himself was such an enlightened and educated person. And I think when a person is educated, all the other factors kind of fall in line. So I would say that for me, he is so important for us at Karuna because of these 2 things. If I have to,
thank you so much. And Vimala Sara just put in the chat one of his slogans, which is educate, agitate, organize.
Yes.
And just to join up some of the dots that we have is, he was an incredibly educated man. He facilitated the education of many Dalit people. And as Sanganath was saying, he drafted the Indian constitution as the first law minister of independent India. So we have that as the legal framework to try and access rights. And we have his incredible spiritual example, which we and are trying to live up to, and many Indian Buddhists also take as their inspiration. So thank you both. Like you said, we could I'd be really happy to continue discussing this. It's so fascinating, but we're gonna move on. But really, really warm thank you for joining us and sharing some of your thoughts and experience. Thank you. And Pratibha, enjoy Diwali.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Sanganath, I think Pratibha is going to sign off. Sanganath will be back later. You can ask him some questions. I'm going to share another video now for a couple of minutes about one of the another inspirational example of the work that Karanar does in India. So these young girls I met when I was, not these ones, but the project that was running in West Bengal, and it focused on adolescent girls. And I was just so struck by the energy and the confidence of these young women, because especially coming from so-called lower castes, it was quite rare to see that. So I was really struck when I met these girls, just how confident they were. And I think this comes through in this video, which you'll see them in the midst of the lockdown and the pandemic, trying to support their community.
নমস্কার, আমার নাম কেয়া বিশ্বাস। আমি একজন ইউথ ফেডারেশনের মেম্বার, তার সাথে সাথে গ্রুপের লিডার। যেখান থেকে কোভিড-19 শুরু হয়েছে, যেখান থেকে লকডাউন শুরু হয়েছে, তার সাথে সাথে আমফান ঝড় যখন হয়ে গেছে, তো সেখান থেকে আমাদের প্রচন্ড মাথায় কাজের চাপ রয়েছে। কাজ করে চলেছি, আগে তো কাজ করতামই, তার সাথে সাথে আরো প্রচন্ড কাজের চাপ চলে এসেছে। এখন আমাদের বসার সময় সত্যিই নেই বললে চলে। আমরা কাজ করে চলেছি যাতে যে মেয়েগুলো এই লকডাউনের কারণে বা এই আমফান ঝড়ের কারণে মানুষের তো ইনকাম নেই বললেই চলে, সবাই বাড়িতে বসে আছে না, কিছু মানুষ তো খেতেও পাচ্ছে না, বেশিরভাগ মানুষ। তো সেই মতো অবস্থায় মেয়েগুলো যাতে ড্রপ আউট না হয়ে যায়, যাতে চাইল্ড ম্যারেজ না হয়ে যায়, সেগুলোর দিকে লক্ষ্য রাখছি। সেগুলো লক্ষ্য রেখে কাজ করে চলেছি, দিন রাত খেয়াল রাখছি যে যাতে যারা বাড়িতে থাকে তারা পড়াশুনোটা কন্টিনিউ করতে পারে। এর পাশাপাশি এখন তো প্রচন্ড অশান্তি শুরু হয়ে গেছে, খাওয়া হয় না তো অশান্তি হবে না তো কি হবে, মানুষের পরিবারের মধ্যে অশান্তি হচ্ছে, ঝামেলা হচ্ছে। তো আমরা তার জন্য কি করেছি, যে একটা ক্যাম্প তৈরি করেছি, যে ক্যাম্পে মোটামুটি কারোর বাড়িতে যদি অশান্তি হয় তো তাহলে তার পাশের বাড়ির লোক চিৎকার করে মানুষকে জানান দেবে। তার কারণে প্রোটেকশন ক্যাম্পটার নাম দিয়েছে চিৎকার ক্যাম্পিং। এর মাধ্যমে আমরা কাজ করছি। তার সাথে সাথে পরিযায়ী শ্রমিক যারা বাইরে আছে, যারা ফিরতে পারছে না, তাদের নাম, তাদের ঠিকানা নিয়ে আমরা অফিসারদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করেছি। অফিসারদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করায় তাদেরকে ফেরানোর চেষ্টা করছি। এখনো মোটামুটি যারা বাইরে আছে তাদেরকে ফেরানোর চেষ্টা করছি। এই পাশাপাশি আমাদের নিজেদের কিছু একটু সমস্যা হচ্ছে না নয়। বাড়িতে গেছি, কোনো মানুষ ঢুকতে দেয়নি, খবর নিতে গেছি, তখনও বলছে যে না, এরকম অবস্থায় ঢুকতে দেব না। কিন্তু তার সত্ত্বেও আমরা কাজ করে চলেছি। যখন লকডাউন চলছিল তখন তো আমাদের না খাওয়ার মতো অবস্থা, রেশন তো অল্প দিচ্ছিল। সেই সময় আমাদের প্রতিষ্ঠান করোনা ট্রাস্ট আমাদের পাশে ছিল, আমাদেরকে রেশন দিয়েছে। আমরা মেয়েরা মিলে সেই সমস্ত কিছু রেশনটা কিভাবে দেব, কাকে দেব, কাদেরকে দেব, কারা মিলে দেব, সবটা প্ল্যান করেছি আমরা নিজেরা মেয়েরা মিলে। আর আমরা আজ মেয়েরা সবাই মিলে, আমরা গ্রুপের প্রত্যেকটা লিডার, তাদের টিমের প্রত্যেকটা সদস্যকে নিয়ে বাড়ি বাড়ি আমাদের যে মেয়েরা আছে, পাশে যারা বাচ্চা মেয়েরা আছে, তারা আদৌ বাড়িতে আছে কিনা, তারা ড্রপ আউট হয়ে যাচ্ছে কিনা, তারা পড়াশুনো করতে পারছে কিনা বাড়িতে থেকে, সেই খবরগুলো নিচ্ছি। এখনো নিয়ে চলেছি, আমরা কাজ করেছি। আমাদের বসার সময় নেই, আমাদের খুব কাজের চাপ।
Okay. I hope you found that as invigorating as I did, that piece. It's like no time to stop, just about enough time to stop and share what they're doing. We're going to make a pivot now. So we've been looking at the work in South Asia, and now we're going to look at what it could look like in the United States. And to do this, we're going to have a panel discussion, and I'm going to hand over to Vimala Sara, who's going to facilitate and introduce the panel. Vimla Sara is the chair of the Vancouver Sangha, and she's a public speaker, master trainer in the field of conflict transformation, leadership, and mindfulness. She's an author of 8 books and co-founder of 8-Step Recovery, and an incredible person. So I'm really delighted that she's 10 books now, sorry. I'm really happy that she's here to convene our next segment.
I just want to point out that Vimla Sara uses they or them pronouns.
Sorry, thank you, Viveka.
Thank you.
So I'll hand over to Vimla Sara.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and asked to be part of this amazing day. And I just have a lot of gratitude for the Indian siblings. Their stories, their wisdom that we've heard from our Indian siblings today. And I just wanted to say that I trained in mime and physical theatre, and my teacher would say, if you have an idea and nobody's got it, it's most probably a crap idea. But if you have an idea and lots of people have got it, then it's most probably a good idea. And I want to say this is a great idea because over the past few months, in certain circles, in academic circles, in activist circles, there's just been this renaissance of Dr. Ambedkar's work. And so it's just fantastic that Triratna North America is really launching this project. And I want to say that it's fantastic. It's because for me, it's moving away from this missionary taint that we actually do have as Triratna. We're sometimes seen as missionary, and because missionaries, and it's because we never look in our backyard. And what's different about this project, Triratna North America, this project that Karuna wanting to do is actually not just looking in what's happening in India, but actually looking at discrimination happening in our backyard, looking at discrimination and how it plays out in the US, how it plays out in Canada, how it plays out in Mexico. So I'm just really excited about this. And I want to stress that this is our project. It's a Triratna project. And as I look on the flat screen, this includes most of you. So I just really hope that you get behind this. So we, as Ananta said, we're going to have a conversation of looking at and exploring the intersectionality perhaps of Ambedkar's work or casteism in India and the US. So I just want to introduce our panelists, if they can be spotlighted on the screen. I'm going to introduce Haresh Dalvi, and apologies if I've mispronounced your name. Haresh was born in a family of Dalits in Mumbai, India, and later converted to Buddhism. And I think this is really important because that younger generation, the millennial generation, do not call themselves Dalits. Often we can misracialize them. They're Buddhists and we're calling them Dalits. But actually, when they've converted to Buddhism, many of that younger generation have let go of that identification of Dalit. He is a PhD student at the Indiana University School of Social Work and has lived and worked in the USA for 10 years. He is the former director of Nagarjuna Training Institute, Nagpur, India, which trains thousands of young people in Buddhist and Dr. Ambedkar studies and continues work with them as well as other non-profit organizations in India. Viveka has worked for 30 years for social, racial, economic, environmental, and gender justice, and is one of my heroines, I will say. She specializes in guiding transformational process on race, equity, culture change, conflict resolution, vision, and strategy. Former chair of the San Francisco Buddhist Center, she is respected senior meditation with Triratna. She is the president board of the Karuna USA. Maxo Gaston, and apologies if I have mispronounced your name, a civil rights attorney and director of diversity, equity, and inclusion at the University of Notre Dame Law School. Max recently and successfully challenged the governor of Florida for violence of the First Amendment. His work with New Delhi-based Human Rights Law Network, where he advised Indian Supreme Court advocates on public interest litigation matters involving caste discrimination and the violation of constitutional rights. He is a board member of Karuna USA. Samaya Sri. Samaya Sri is a humanitarian, global leader and change maker. She has worked as a senior leader driving growth for the United Nations and the International Rescue Committee, and cumulatively raised over $2.5 billion. So we need Samaya Sri. She is chair of the Triratna New York, New Jersey Sangha and president of My Sangha Vancouver. She is a former trustee of Karuna UK and a co-founder of Karuna USA. So a lot of wisdom on this panel, and hopefully are they spotlighted, because they're not spotlighted on my screen. Okay, so we have several questions. As you know, you've got 3 minutes each to respond to the questions. So please have a timer in front of you so that I don't have to kind of come in and say stop. Okay, so the first question, and I will posit this to Haresh. Haresh, what is the equivalent of caste in the United States? What would you say is the equivalent to caste in the United States, Haresh?
Thank you, Vimal, Sarah, and everyone. Nice to see you all. My experience is mostly based on living in Midwest. So for those who don't know Midwest, it is the central part of America. East and West, and the middle portion is the Midwest. That is what I have spent most of my time. And based on that, I can say, since I'm coming from India, I know the social hierarchy and stratification. Because of caste, I was able to see how people see race or ethnicity as central to their identity. So that is what I first noticed it very clearly. In recent years, I would say it is still more common for people to express their racist or racially insensitive views and derogatory words. So that is my personal observation, and I would say it is mostly against the blacks and non-white people. So that is very much there, and people are, I would say, not shying to use certain words, and so that is clearly visible, and that just reminds me about India and the caste-based discriminations and discriminatory practices in India. It is, for most people, I think it is difficult to recognize that racial remarks and racial treatment makes it very difficult for people to work on themselves and progress in their lives. So it is kind of a real obstacle for people to overcome and deal with those emotions. And it are like triggers people to send people in depression or negative emotions. So that is, it is really making negative impact of some of my friends I'm interacting and talking to since several years in different places, different cities. I see this as a common theme, that negatively, how the racial remarks are and treatment is impacting people negatively of non-white, especially non-white people. Yeah, so that is, I can very much see and relate with my own experience in India. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, we'll come back to you a bit later. So I'm going to move on to Viveka with the same question.
I think helpfully, there was a book published by a Black author and New York Times reporter, Isabel Wilkerson, with the title Caste. And I put a link into it. So I feel like there's such little time here. I'm going to ask people to do their own work beyond this call this morning to learn more. She says caste is the granting or withholding of respect, status, honor, attention, privileges, resources, benefit of the doubt and basic human kindness to someone on the basis of their perceived rank or standing in a hierarchy. And what some people call racism could be seen as merely one manifestation of the degree to which we have internalized the larger American caste system. You know, so very much like what Haresh is saying. So yeah, in the first part, we heard about marginalized groups, and in the US, Black communities and indigenous people of indigenous descent, Native Americans, have some of the most, the greatest disparities in what we could call living a life with dignity, a fair life in our country. This happens in all sorts of realms. Again, I'll put a link which you can educate yourself with, which talks about how it's that there are systems that keep this in place. And so this mirrors what we heard about India. But there are laws, there are policies that keep this in place. One obvious one about is like housing policy, the history of housing policy. And you just simply could not get a loan as a Black family to live in certain neighborhoods. And these were intentional structures, yeah? So this extends to housing, distribution of wealth, employment, government surveillance, immigration policy, health, COVID, infant mortality, yeah, every aspect of our lives. And the impacts are intersectional. So you could say that while we see the biggest impacts on in Black and Indigenous communities, it also includes other people of color. But the more intersections, like a Black woman has even intersections of disadvantage or suppression of systems on that person, or if you're queer or gender non-conforming. So I think that this is how we see this in the US context, in Canada as well, seeing a similar phenomenon.
Thank you, Viveka. Okay. Samaya Shri, over to you to answer this question.
Thank you. Wow, I'm so enjoying hearing what other people have to say, and I'll try and be additive. I've had the privilege and enormous several times of spending time in India, visiting some of our amazing projects. And one of the things that people have said to me while we've been starting CARENR USA is, but how can you take some of those core insights from the work that happens in South Asia and bring them to America, because the context is so different? And on the surface, in some ways that might be true, particularly when I think about India and the United States. However, just to take those two countries, they have an enormous amount in common as well. And then I think the thing that strikes me most about both of them, and you just touched on this, Viveka, is the incredible disparity of wealth, privilege, power, access to justice, access to equal opportunities that takes place in both of those countries. And that same incredible dislodging experience you can have if you visit a city like Mumbai and you see incredible wealth and incredible poverty and exclusion next to each other. You can have that same experience if you go to the Upper East Side of New York. Those of us who live in America may have horrified. I wonder if we're still as shocked and horrified by that when we see it playing out in our own cities in the United States. And I think the other thing I just want to call forwards, it's already been touched on, is in particular the impact on women and the role of women in the disproportionate impact that these disadvantages, lack of access to equality, lack of access to resources has on women and communities, And as we've seen from those amazing videos we've seen this morning, the disproportionate and incredibly important role that women can play as well in raising their communities up. I work in global reproductive rights at the moment. I work with UNFPA. And just to share one shocking statistic that some of you might know, is an African American woman giving birth in an American hospital is 8 times more likely to die in childbirth than a white American woman. Now, what godly reason is there for that? You know, that figure in itself tells us a whole story about how American society functions at the moment, and disproportionate access to equality and to resources. So
Thank you.
I think that's what we're facing.
Thank you. And just to say, it's the same in the UK, those statistics. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I haven't seen the statistics for Canada. Okay, Maxa, over to you.
You know, I agree with what everyone has said fully and wholeheartedly. So I'll just try to add my own perspective on it. I do think that the equivalent to caste in the United States is race. And, you know, 2 of the many parallel lines that I think run between both casteism and racism are, you know, A, colorism, and B, the sort of overvaluation of Eurocentric features and Western ideals. You know, just like untouchability, racism in America has rationalized and maintained a vast pool of cheap labor for the wealthy and the powerful. And in addition to the points that everyone else was raising, you know, racism, like casteism, has blocked access to justice in the justice system. And, you know, in the face of things like institutionalized hatred, police shootings, violent crimes, Dalit atrocities, you know, that go overlooked by government officials and police officers. You're born into your race, just like you're born into your caste. And I think that, you know, in the Indian subcontinent, those who are identified as Dalits are akin in many ways, like everyone was saying, to Black people in the United States. While Black people are at the bottom of the racial hierarchy, people who, you know, Hinduism classifies as Dalits are viewed as, you know, as so low in the Indian society that they can't even be said to be at the bottom of the caste system because they're technically outcast from that system. Both concepts have these, you know, major opposition leaders. You know, in India, you've got Dr. Ambedkar. Black people, we have Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. And historically, there are parallels between these concepts as well that I think are really interesting. So really quickly, for instance, the notion of untouchability, you know, that idea that Dalits are the unclean other bears a striking resemblance to segregation and the legal doctrine of separate but equal in the United States. So in the 1950s, the famous Black actress and singer Dorothy Dandridge was invited to perform at a prominent hotel in Las Vegas. And when she was told that the swimming pool was whites only because Blacks were unclean, she became so enraged that she got in her bathing suit, walked to the pool, and dipped a single toe into the pool in front of all of the white swimmers. And the hotel was so disgusted at what she did that they drained the entire pool because it had been tainted by the touch of a Black woman. In a similar way, in 1927, Dr. Ambedkar led a peaceful protest to allow Dalits to use water in a public water tank that Dalits were being denied access to by other Hindus. The law required, however, that Dalits should have access to it. And so due to the mere act of the Dalits drinking the water from the public tank, the upper caste Hindus carried out a purification ritual to undo the pollution caused by the public water source being sullied by untouchables. So I think the bottom line here is that the problem of racism, just like the problem of untouchability, you know, in many ways, these two concepts are identical twins. They might carry different faces, but ultimately they share the same DNA.
Thank you. Oh gosh, there's so much I could say. And I think the one thing, what is really important to say is that 4 of us on this screen have experienced untouchability on a particular level. In my life, I've experienced that, okay? And I think sometimes people think it's especially here in North America, it's something of the past that we as Black and Asian people don't experience that. But let me tell you, we do experience that. Okay, time is clocking on, and we want to hear from these wise people on the panel. So the next question is, from your experience of the US context and knowledge of Karuna's work, what role do you think Karuna USA can play in addressing issues of exclusion and marginalization? And I think I'll go to you first, Samay, as this is part of your baby, you and Ananta bringing this in. So I'm going to come to you first.
Thank you. So my first answer is going to be, we don't know. And it's really important for us to say that we're entering a period which starts today of listening and learning and discovering. You know, as we've already heard, the issues are enormous, but how our particular contribution can be part of moving the dial on some of these issues is going to be a very exciting and important part of the next few months of our work, and we are going to be in deep learning mode. I think what we do know, or the ideas that we hold on to quite strongly, are that there's something about the approach and philosophy of Karuna that will be really important here, of humility, of knowing that it's, you know, there's already incredible work happening, incredibly important work, amazing projects, amazing grassroots organizations, and our approach will be to find them, to partner with them, to stand behind sometimes, to stand alongside sometimes, and support them in what they're doing. So I think there's going to be something about how we come alongside those groups and how we identify them. I do want to again just call out the incredible importance of gender in that, you know, that's, as you've seen from the videos today, the transformative power of women within these communities, women leaders, women participants in, and the importance of getting the benefits of the transformational work to reach women in those communities is something that not just Karuna, many organisations that are in the business of social transformation have realised how critical and central gender is. So I'm hoping that gender will also be a very important part of our contribution in North America.
Thank you. Over to you next, Suresh.
What I see is, because of social injustice and discrimination, and because of racism, similarly like casteism, people are with wounded minds. They need healing. And there is guilt, there is anger, experience of suffering, all of that is there, as if it is hidden, but may not be seen on surface level, but it is very much there. So if we establish dukkha, suffering, as a suffering from racial and caste related issues, I think there would be definitely the way for us as a Buddhist practitioners. So, and the suffering is residual because of some historical reasons and since centuries, and some suffering is because of something is ongoing. So residual and ongoing, those I think are the two things, two characters of the racial or caste related sufferings. And people are not comfortable in talking about that on general at public level. They are talking maybe within their homes or within the close circles. So and people don't have the language to use to talk about these issues in openly and safe environment. So, and it is not about ideology or philosophy, but it is more like personal experiences. So I think perhaps Karuna USA can create or help its future partners to create such platforms or some opportunities for people to share their pain, suffering, to ventilate, to catharsize, and then how to overcome these obstacles. I think that would be a really good thing. And perhaps to start with Dhammacharis and Dhammamitras here in USA and Canada, how they could use the language and how could they be trained to talk on these issues. If we are able to train certain Dhammacharis, those who are interested, those Dhammacharis and Dhammamitras to initiate certain dialogues on these lines, I think that would be a great contribution. Of course, it could be a long time for people to understand and then express themselves, but I would really think that that would be a great thing to contribute, because we need people, healers, compassionate healers, and people who can bridge and build bridges, who can come together and fill the gap. And I don't see those people here. At least I haven't seen those who can talk on compassionate lines. So that kind of people, I think those are really needed.
Thank you. Thank you. Maxo, over to you next.
Thank you, Vimalasara. I agree with a lot of what has been said. From my perspective, I think that Karina's work to empower marginalized individuals from caste-based communities is in a lot of ways directly transferable to marginalized communities in the US context. Karina empowers individuals with funding and resources and works alongside them to foster a sense of equity that allows people and societies to thrive against social and institutional circumstances that unfairly hold them down. I think that premise fits really perfectly in helping to break down really toxic institutions that we see in the United States, like white supremacy, the white savior industrial complex, toxic masculinity, the prison industrial complex, the absence of women and minorities in crucial positions of power and employment, the high school to prison pipeline that indoctrinates 1 in 5 Black men in America. Karina's focus on these 3 major pillars of education, gender equality, livelihood are exactly the efforts that are well placed to address those sort of problems and build healthy environments for marginalized people who, often exist in a world that works against them and kind of leads them astray. I think in the United States specifically right now, Karina is exactly what we need. And by that, I mean, Karina is compassion in action. We're living in a context of a global reckoning on race. We're seeing people's civil rights and civil liberties being challenged overtly in a lot of ways and aggressively. We're still in the midst of a global pandemic. And, I think one of the points that you, Vimalasara, and Viveka as well mentioned is that, the health crisis affects marginalized communities, the intersectionality of that. Compassion on a grassroots level doesn't just address all of these systems of systemic oppression, it also confronts the mental health consequences of that oppression and reinforces mental wellness by creating conditions for support and a supportive environment. So that idea of building good health and support by breaking down these systems that are by design set to create injustice, I think is exactly what the United States needs right now. And I think that Karina can do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Viveka.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I feel like one thing we can also do is really do our own work in looking at not doing this work from a place that replicates superiority or power over others and how money is exchanged. And yeah, so I think that the quote from earlier where Ambedkar's value of an example of an engaged Buddhist, I was really struck by that. That's one of the things that Ambedkar has given our world and, lives on beyond his historical lifetime. And I think that one of the things that Karina can do is help us live into that. And that's a process where I know from my own work of undoing the way my mind has been structured by the system I live in has been the same as a Buddhist practice. And I don't know how we can separate those things, that we actually work on how we have been socially conditioned. So I invite us into that so that we can truly be in grassroots partnership. And I'm sure we're always learning what it means to be in right relationship. I think that part of that right relationship is looking to support BIPOC-led organizations to really be committed to that. In that way, we also support leadership development, right? Like we see people as resourceful whole people that are leading in their communities. Yeah, and I really urge us to start somewhere. I feel like the gift of the possibility of what it looks like to be an engaged Buddhist in our world is so much is conditioning us to overwhelm, to apathy. Even people that might not need to be convinced that there are huge disparities that are worth working on can often be overwhelmed and not know what to do. So one of the habits that keeps us from changing the status quo is perfectionism. Sometimes it's described as a dominant culture habit. So we don't have to be perfect. We can be learners. We can learn as we can go. We can be accountable to learning with the communities we hope to partner with. And we should just start somewhere. You know, money is energy. Money is a form of energy. Sometimes we hear, oh, you know, like from a standpoint of individualism, if you had invested that $1,000 in your retirement fund, you'd have so much by now. Well, imagine if we took the energy of that money and invested it towards transforming our world to the kind of world I know I long for, a world of dignity and connection versus isolation and despondency. So I feel like that's a great gift to all of us, and it's a healing gift.
Thank you. I just really hear a strong call for action. And it's interesting at the moment we're hearing, let's be an eco-sattva, let's be an eco-sattva. Well, we can be an engaged sattva. Let's be an engaged sattva, you know. And I just really want to remind us as well, just that connection, that remembering that the Dalit Panthers modeled themselves on the Black Panthers, and that really strong connection. And just again, thank you, Viveka, for mentioning money as energy. And one of the things I just want to say that I went onto your link to donate, and it has one-off and monthly. But people like me who grew up around money, give me an opportunity to donate yearly, just a one-off yearly, and come back yearly to for that. Yeah. And the other thing is, I'm just going to put this link in here, because I think also part of the work is for all of us to begin to look at our biases, and many of you might know of this, and even if you've done it, it's really great to do it again in 6 months time and 6 months time, and do the race one and do the gender one, and just really see where you are in the spectrum and begin to make the unconscious conscious. So we are bang on time. This is amazing. Thank you, speakers. I cannot believe it. Wow, it's a miracle. The bodhicitta is arising. Okay, calm down, Vimlasara. Okay, so we are asking you to do some of your own work. You've listened to us. You've heard from Karuna. You've heard from our Indian siblings, and you've heard from our North American siblings. And so we are inviting you to go into a breakout room just for 15 minutes. If you don't want to go in, you can always come out. So it's not like you have to go into a breakout room. And we want you to just explore what stood out for you. Yeah. And what would you like to know more about? So what stood out for you, and what would you like to know more about? And maybe if somebody could just take a couple of notes, okay? So we are going to put you into breakout rooms. The secret teaching is happening. Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, so it would be, we're not going to be able to hear from everybody in terms of speaking, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in the chat, and it's an invitation to click through to this link. If you could click through to that link and answer the question, what stood out for you? What is something that you know? So this is the harvesting. We're really wanting to harvest some of the wisdom of those of you who have been listening. So yeah, so we just have a couple of minutes. If you could click through. If it's too cumbersome, you can put it in the chat. I mean, it's anonymous. We don't know who's actually contributing. I will know if 33 people have contributed, because it gives me the the number of people. Oh, restart my Mac. My Mac is, oh my God, I have gone.
You're still here, Vimlasara.
Am I still here? It's saying restart my Mac because it's trying.
You're good. We hear you. And we see you.
All right. Oh, it's okay. Where are you?
Is it an update, Vimlasara? You could cancel
Okay,
it.
I don't have to click on anything.
Yeah.
Resume the share.
We can all take a big breath of relief with you and for you.
So yeah, if people would like to click through and answer the question, what stood out for you? What do you want to know more about? And if it seems too cumbersome, you can put it in the chat. Great. Excited by Maxo's point that Karina's approach in India is transferable to North America. Everyone needs compassion that can stay the mission and be the heading. I really like Rish's take on being compassionate. Great. The model of Dr. Ambedkar, great, thank you. Things are populating. And this is really going to help Karina USA. So just keep on adding. And even when I stop the share, you can keep, if you just keep on adding to this, and then I can share this. Great, there's 8 people have contributed so far. So that's about a quarter of people. So let's really see if we can get over 50% participation with this. Yeah, relationship between racial and oppression. Great, well done. We're a third way through of participation on this. 11 people have participated, so yeah. Okay. All right, great. We're over 50%. So just really encouraging you to keep on adding to this, because the harvesting is what we want. It's really important. So I'm going to stop share, and as I say, you can still keep on with the link. I will be able to get it. And I want to say thank you very much to the panel. And I'm getting stressed out because it wants me to update. So I'm going to hand back over to, I think, Ananta.
Thanks, Vimlasara. I'm just going to field some of the questions, actually. I really like the one that came in from the San Francisco Center. So are the projects going to be centered in New York? Will there be bases around North America connecting to environmental justice groups? So Samaya Shree, did you want to, I wanted to pass that one to you.
You're going to have to say it again because I was busy thanking Vimlasara in the chat group. I'm sorry. I moved.
No worries. So the San Francisco Center are asking, are projects going to be centered in New York, because that's where we've incorporated in New York State, yes, or will they be based, there'll be bases around North America? And there's a supplementary connecting to environmental justice groups.
Yeah, it's a complete coincidence that at the moment it looks a little bit New York centric, because Ananta and I are both in this region, although of course I live in New Jersey now, not New York. So we very, very much see this as, at the very least, a USA initiative, although I'm excited that we have, you know, siblings in Canada and Mexico who are interested in this conversation. But it's very much a United States initiative, and actually I think we actively want to make sure that we connect with and work with people who are in different parts of the country. I think that's actually very, very important for the success of CARINI USA, that we don't become a sort of East Coast thing. And, you know, that's both in terms of people who want to volunteer to work with us. I hope as we grow our trustees, that will be true. I hope as people join us to work with us, that our Right Livelihood will be pan-continental, and that we'll find ways of making that work. And I would imagine when we get to the point of doing programming, we'll also be very, very deliberate about geographical spread.
Ananta?
Go ahead, Viveka.
Yeah, I'm seeing there's questions about what criteria will Karuna USA be looking at with partnering? And I wonder if it'd be a good time to talk about that. Actually, there's going to be a thoughtful process of design with actually bringing in a consultant to help us think about a way to start and to have a clear set of values guiding us and to be learning from what's happening in the ecosystem around us. So I guess it's a little early days, but certainly we're also going to ask this consultant to learn from the Karuna model, because a lot has been worked out, as has already been pointed out, that's transferable.
Thank you. And that's a really good plug to say that person could be you. You might be a strategy specialist and know very much about this sector, or you might know somebody who could fit that bill. So we have an announcement on the website and a terms or an RFP that is out. So if you think of anyone who might be suitable, please send them our way. And I also put into the chat, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We have a few more minutes for questions. I did see there was in the board that Vimalasara put up that someone was asking, what can we do? And we'll come to that in just a few minutes, because we'll share some actions that we will invite you to do. So yeah, if there's anything that you're curious about, that's hanging from anything that anyone said.
So Ananta, if you want, we've pasted in chat the responses that people had put in the mentor.
Can you see the PDF, Ananta?
I do. I'm trying to filter quickly to see what points might be.
I think there's something here that came up from our group that I could offer. There's someone, it's not our group, that said that it resonates. So glad, or it might be our group actually, but glad we're doing this in North America. Education is everything. Slightly overwhelmed by the scale of the task in the USA. How do we know where to start? So yeah, I just noticed, and in the chat, there was this kind of resonance with being able to not fall into perfectionism. Yeah, so I wonder about that, just that, maybe just as practitioners, how do we work with overwhelm? Where do we, this is like a core teaching we have, is going from reactive mind to creative mind. Yeah. And one thing I love that I learned once about ourselves is that we can't help how anxious we feel. It's just sort of preconditioned in us. It's part of our karma vipaka, I could say. But when we feel anxious or overwhelmed, we can dial up our curiosity. So I just invite us all to be really curious about what's possible. Yeah, we can dial up. We can get really interested in what's possible. What are we interested in?
And I'll just add to that I think when Samaya Shri and I have been brainstorming between ourselves, and now we're kind of taking that out as well. I definitely feel that the sort of the excitement of the possibility, as well as the sense of overwhelm and what can we do, so we definitely want to be very ambitious, and there's lots of areas that we could go into, but obviously we have to think very carefully about what we can do. Yeah. Samaya Shri?
I'd just like to add, absolutely, and yes, we've been on that sort of journey many times, haven't we, Ananta? I think from the where do we start perspective, my response to that, and I already see this in the amazing work of Karuna UK and Karuna Germany, is we start with other human beings. We don't have to work out the formula for transforming all the institutional biases and prejudices and inequities in the United States. We can start by investing in remarkable human beings and helping them to have agency around their ideas and their philosophies and their convictions. And I think the two videos we saw today I mean, both of those women were just blew me away, and are both actually remarkable examples of, you get behind people like that, they will have ideas about what to do next, if they're given the support to get there. So that's part of my answer to the question of where do we start, is we start with other human beings.
And Samashri, can I just say, like, one function of racism is it keeps us in our lanes, you know? But one of the things I've been doing is just doing a lot of work in the world where people are coming together to work for social change. And there are plenty of people that are already moving great ideas. You know what I mean? There's no shortage of people like to partner with who are not only working on their own, but actually working well with others. So yeah. So I think one of the gifts is we can learn more about all the great work that's happening.
Absolutely.
Wonderful, thank you. So we're going to move into our closing now, and I want to really warmly and from my heart really thank the speakers today, who have so generously offered their time, given their really given of themselves, and made this a really inspiring event to be part of. And I'm really excited, actually. I continue to be excited to be part of this, and looking forward to seeing where it can go. I feel like it's just incredible to witness the bringing together of our broad international community, India, UK, Germany, the US, Canada. I know there's people on here from Mexico too, and probably other places. And it's amazing. It's amazing to be reflecting on these problems, drawing parallels and connections, and considering what impact we are having and can continue to have in the world. I started off by introducing 5 points. So those 5 were: we are here, CARINR USA exists, which is what this event has been about. That we will support work in South Asia, and we've heard all about that from Padmadaka, Pratibha and Sanganath, and through those videos. We'll support work in the USA, which is what we've been exploring for the last hour or so. And that we will be a Triratna-led organization, which we've been modeling. Yeah, we've been modeling that today, all of us, through our participation in this event. Fifthly, and finally, and very importantly, is that we will mobilize resources in the USA. And we have started that by focusing on you guys, by focusing on Triratna. So I'm going to hand over to Samashri, who is going to share what this can look like.
Thank you, Ananta. And just to echo your excitement and inspiration, and how being in this amazing company for the last 2 hours has just lifted me to another level of enthusiasm about this amazing adventure that we're going to have together as a community. It's just going to be incredible. And I was also particularly inspired by Kaya and her saying no time to sit. I think that needs to be our new motto. There is no time to sit. And I just wanted to say one other thing before I start to talk to everyone about the money, and just feeling this deep sense of gratitude for our community sitting here today, and how at our best, really beautiful things can happen when we come together. So I'm feeling huge gratitude to our founders and teachers sitting here with all of you. Very moved by that. We're launching a fundraising appeal. And as you already heard at the beginning, we need to raise about $100,000 in the next 2 to 3 months in order to get CARINR USA off to a really strong start. And what that means is to resource us to keep moving forwards with some of the exciting things that we talked about, and to be able to start supporting our amazing CARINR partners in South Asia. So we're launching this $100,000 appeal, And this year we are, this end of year, as we know in North America, this 2 months is very important in fundraising terms. It's the end of the tax year. We are particularly looking to the community, the Triratna community in the United States, to support us in raising that money. That won't be true every year. Our plans are to gradually expand our field of connection. We're going to have other launches into other communities. We're going to be reaching into the diaspora community. We're going to be reaching into the wider faith communities in this country. We're going to be reaching out to people who, for other reasons, are interested in work to enhance social justice in North America. But for now, we're starting with our home community and Triratna. So we need to raise $100,000. We're really hoping that you've been convinced and inspired by today, and that you will, after you come off your Zoom, think really, really hard about a gift that you might be able to make to us before the end of this financial year, either a cash gift, or if it's your preference to make a monthly gift, that would make a huge difference as well. In particular, we know there are people in our community who are already generous philanthropists and will make a humanitarian gift, for example, at the end of the year. You may have, a deep commitment to overseas humanitarian work or work in another philanthropic area that means a lot to you. We'd really ask that you consider this year whether you would consider making a gift of that nature to us. There's been links shared in the chat room. Can you put the link in again, Ananta, so it's easily locatable there? It's also available on the website, and we will be sending emails out over the next couple of days. Do you mind letting him in? Thank you. Sorry, the dog is joining in with huge enthusiasm for he's saying, please give your donation. We also want you to talk to your friends and to your community. So please tell your friends, your families, please talk to your Sanghas, please talk to other donors. Ananta and I had a dry run of this on Tuesday night with our local Sangha, and somebody went into their local furniture store and persuaded the owner of the furniture store to support Karanar, which I thought was fantastic. So please just feel confident and excited to talk to other people about what's happening with Karanar USA, and see if you can engage them, point them towards our website, maybe give a talk at your Sangha night, or invite one of us to come and give a talk at your Sangha night. Ananta's been setting up all our lovely social media accounts, so please follow us on social media, because we're hoping to build our digital profile, and we really have big plans over the next couple of years to do digital fundraising. So help us to sort of build our algorithm and get some traffic and get some energy behind our social media platforms. And please think about whether you would like to be involved in any other way with what we're doing. We are going to be looking for more trustees next year to join our wonderful and very small group at the moment. We're going to be looking for volunteers. And when we have the resources ready, we're going to be looking for people who want to actually join the team and have jobs within Karanar USA. So please start thinking, in 2022 or in 2023, is there room in my life? Could I see this being an important part of my altruistic practice in the future? And if the answer to that is maybe, please get in touch with us. We would love to talk to you. And as we said earlier on, geography is not a factor. Yeah. And then the last thing is we've got a newsletter. So if you go on our website, you can put your name down for the newsletter. So I'll just end again by saying it is really important that we raise this money, because raising this money is what will set us up to do all of the other things that we're going to do that will make us less dependent on the Triratna community. So we really need a surge from Triratna in the next couple of months. And I guess I just want to end by saying thank you. And in particular, I think the only person who's not been really thanked today is Ananta, who's been an absolutely amazing thought partner, colleague, champion, email chaser, and you know, we wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for Ananta. So huge gratitude and respect to you, Ananta, for your leadership on this.
Thank you so much, Maishri. Appreciate that. And there is someone else to thank, though, who is Chandra Dasa and the Buddhist Center Online team, who's been incredible at behind the scenes setting this up. So it really would not have happened, or it wouldn't have happened nowhere near as smoothly as it has without their support. So thank you so much. And again, a really big thank you to our speakers, Fimla Sarafa panel facilitating today. Yeah, amazing. And thank you all for showing up, for being here and helping us to launch in earnest. So we are, as Vimla Sara said, the Bodhisattvas are with us. So we're bang on time, and we're going to have an outro that Viveka hopefully is going to share with us. And so again, thank you all for coming, and keep in touch. Looking forward to collaborating with you over the coming months and years.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thanks everyone. It was really great. Thank you.
Bye, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. So inspired.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.